Hello and welcome to the Chop It Up Podcast, the show that's unfiltered and unapologetic. Each episode will bring you closer to finding your purpose. And for our loyal listeners, a special surprise awaits you at the end. Be sure to listen all the way through. Now, here's your host, Carmisha Superville.
Hello. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Chop It Up Podcast. You guys, I'm so happy that you are tuning in today with us again. We took a little break. We gave you guys a little break, but we are back, and we're back with an amazing conversation. I'm so happy. And let me just say, you guys, we are going international. Yes, this guest that we are speaking with today, she's international. Okay? We expanding, baby. You already know the vibes. Well, welcome back. As you already know, it's your girl, Kamisha. Welcome back to the Chop It Up Podcast. Today, we have an amazing conversation, and it's all about our ladies. This is going to be a part of our summer series. Ladies, how do we level up? Okay, so I found the perfect guest to talk about it. We are talking today with Daisy Moraa. She's a certified life coach for women. She helps women level up by refining their personal brand and rediscovering their femininity. I'm going to say that again. Refining their personal brand and rediscovering their femininity. Daisy, welcome. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I am doing so well. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Chop It Up. You ready to chop it up?
Yes, I'm ready to chop it up. Let's
All
chop up leveling up in feminine energy and personal branding.
Yes. Awesome. So Daisy, without further ado, I accidentally bumped into your page. And let me tell you, and that was like maybe a few weeks ago, but something made me stay because I just love the way that you curate the page, and more so the information that you provide. And it's so crazy because recently I was on a date with another female friend of mine, and we were talking, and she said something to the effect that, Kamisha, you do not have any feminine energy.
What?
I said, what? So I think this is such a timely conversation because so many of us may not, especially career women or the modern women, may not really understand how essential it is to have feminine energy, to exhibit, to embody it. So let's talk about that. Why did you start the page?
So I started the page in the middle of the pandemic. This was in 2020, and everybody was in their houses. We're all cooped up. We're all scared about the virus and all that. And myself, because by then I'd already worked for like 4 years as a civil engineer, I'd gathered like all this wealth of information and a wealth of experience on how to be at the workplace and also how to interact with people, because as I was working, I kept on getting better and better roles. So by the time the pandemic happened, I was an assistant project manager. And by that time I was going for business lunches, I was going for meetings, and that required me to work on my personal branding. So at first I thought that being elegant and being feminine was just about like the dressing, and it's just about, you know, how you eat and how you walk, how you talk. But then I discovered it was also an energy thing. And this actually led me to start wondering, what is feminine energy? How can I be softer, but in an authentic way without diminishing my power, right? Because a lot of women, I think, put femininity aside because they thought it is weak and because they thought that is something that is backward and belong to our grandmothers and stuff like that. But really, it is something that we need. And for us as career women and for us as accomplished women, we spend so much time in places that require us to be in our masculine energy. So for example, the workplace, the education place, we are in spaces that require us to almost live like men, and we're not men, and that requires us to sort of put aside our feminine energy. So when I started sharing these things, like in the middle of the pandemic, the page really grew a lot. Like I remember we hit 30,000 followers in like 6 months. So when that happened, I realized, oh, so many women are very curious about how to be feminine, how to be elegant, how to level up. And so I decided to actually take that seriously and work on my credentials. So now in the last 18 months, I've become a certified image consultant, a certified etiquette consultant, and also got my certification in life coaching. So this is how I bring it all together. But now it started as a hobby, but it's something that I've sort of built and created like a credible business with it so that I can serve women in a much more professional and also in a way that I'm sure that I can deliver a full transformation for them. Because before when I started with my experience, and then now it's my experience plus expertise. And I've worked with close to 2,000 women now. So women that I've served with my books, women that I've served with my services as clients, and women that I've served, who probably have come to me and said, how can you help me move from point A to point B? And I've done this for several people as well. Yes.
Wow, I love that. Congratulations. 2,000 women you've worked with. That's amazing.
Yes. So these are people who've either bought my digital products or my courses, or who've gotten like direct one-on-one services from me.
That is great. And what I love is that you said that you're welcome, you were a project manager. So how much of that skill set are you bringing into your current role?
So I was an assistant project manager, and when you're an engineer and you're dealing with so many people, so you're dealing with clients, you're dealing with subcontractors, you're dealing with people who are working beneath you, you would require a lot of soft skills. And this is how you can employ a bit of feminine energy at the workplace. You require also a lot of organization skills to run a page like I've done for 2 years and to run it successfully and to have people coming back. You sort of need to also have organization skills that make it possible for you to communicate like in a very clear way. So organization for how the content comes out, and also communication skills are required on how to communicate with people, how to create rapport, how to create a connection. So I feel like some of the skills that I had in my role as an assistant project manager also really apply to what I'm doing now with the brand and how much I've been able to build it.
Wow. Amazing. Yes. Amazing. So yeah. Daisy, let's talk, right? So let's talk about, why do you think now today, feminine energy, like you spoke about that earlier, everything has to do with energy, and we're hearing a lot about energy. Why do you think that is so essential for women to tap into their femininity?
So first of all, I think it's essential for the well-being of women, first and foremost, right? And it's also a way for women to reclaim their power, because I think what has happened is, for women, we thought to be empowered was to almost be like men, but that's not essentially true, right? Because there is things that we can embody and things we can do that men cannot do. And being in touch with your feminine energy and embodying your feminine energy helps you to be more yourself, right? So let me try to sort of explain it in a simple way, because a lot of people give many different definitions of what feminine energy is and what masculine energy is. If you look at most of the women who are in their prime, who are in the workplace, they're burnt out because they're sort of working based on how men should work. So for example, men work on a 24-hour cycle based on their testosterone and their hormones, right? But for us women, we work based on our lunar cycle, which is like your period cycle, right? Your menstruation cycle. And you have weeks where your energy is really high, and then you have weeks where your energy is really low, and you have weeks where you almost don't want to go anywhere when you're on your menses. And it matters that we consider things like this, like even in the careers that we choose, the lifestyle that we choose, because we cannot work the way men work and expect that we won't be burnt out, exhausted, right? I'm not saying that women cannot do what men can do. We can do it. Sometimes we can do it better, but to respect sort of the female space, and to sort of respect how women are, and to respect our bodies, to respect our needs, to respect our what can I say, our desires, right? So if you speak to quite a number of women who have reached the peak of their careers, they say, I got to a place where I wanted more because my life is not my career. So with a page, what I basically try to do is to help women to realize that identity is not their career, or their career is not their identity. There's so much more. Their career is just one of the other things that they do. And when they tap into their feminine energy, they start to realize, oh my goodness, I actually have a worth outside of work, and I have worth outside a relationship, and I myself deserve the good things without having to come from a place where it's like they're in survival mode, and they can be in a place where they can be honest with themselves and their feelings and their desires and the things that they want. So this is why I combine feminine energy and personal branding, because for a woman to level up, you need to also look at these other areas of your life that you've been neglecting. Your life is not just about your career.
I love it. I'm taking notes, and I love what you just listen. Their success, our success, our career is not our identity.
Yes,
our
exactly.
career is not our identity. And you know, it's so ironic that you said that. Just last night, I was watching a show, and the woman, she's in a different stage of her life, but she has so much of her career wrapped up in her identity that she's not allowing herself to be free. She's not allowing herself to really engage with the opposite sex in an organic way because she's so wrapped up. And so the coach was telling her, you got to separate the two. Daisy, so many of us, and I think Michelle Obama spoke about this as well, where we as women, especially women of color, because we are killing it in the corporate space, in business, in building businesses right now, they said that Black women are leading in terms of entrepreneurship. But because we're killing it on the forefront that seems success, we sometimes negate our happiness. Sometimes we leave behind, like you just mentioned, our femininity, because we have to show up, right? We have to show up as complete. We have to show up as whole. So I love the fact that you said that our career is not our identity. Let me ask you, in terms of the Me Too movement, now I know you live in another country. Are you familiar with the Me Too movement in the US?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
I
am. Yes,
awesome,
very much.
Awesome. What do you think about that movement in terms of femininity and where we are as a society? Because we have some that argue that, no, we need to be less feminine and more, speak up. Like, you know what I'm, there's a strife between what does femininity look like and how a woman should act in present day. So what are your thoughts?
So when you say that, a number of things come to mind. First of all, I think that there is the idea that being feminine means that you're weak and therefore you can't speak out, right? That is not true, because that is like the backward 1950s sort of mentality of what femininity meant. Being feminine means being so rooted within yourself and within your autonomy as a woman that you're able to speak up when things are not going right. So for example, when abuse happens or when assault happens, as a woman who's like very integrated with her feminine energy and masculine energy, you will speak up, right? So that is an aspect of that. And the other thing that comes to mind is the idea that to speak out means that you're entirely masculine, and it means that you're very aggressive, and therefore, because there is sort of like the Hollywood aesthetic that to be feminine means to be all dolled up, and it means to be wearing pink and flowers and all that kind of thing. That is an idea that does meet a particular archetype of the feminine spectrum, but it's not the only one. And if anything, that is like one of the underdeveloped feminine archetypes that we have. If you were to look at the entire, like spectrum and to say, where am I in this stage? and it's one of the things that I sort of try to teach. I tell people you can be at different stages of feminine energy, at different stages of your life. We all are not in one place in a homogeneous way when it comes to feminine energy. And then the third thing that comes to mind is that there is different feminine archetypes. So there is a woman who will probably never speak out because her joy will be in being a mother. And then there is another woman who will speak out because her joy is in advocating for women's rights. And there is a woman who probably is okay with living in the patriarchy. So for example, I myself, when it comes to the feminine archetypes, seduction archetypes, I'm a sage, which means I can thrive very well in a patriarchal society because that's my archetype. There is also like there is women who will probably not speak out, who probably not spend their time teaching other people, who probably not spend their time, speaking out, like in the Me Too movement. And we have to celebrate and we have to accept that women are not homogeneous. Women are not one thing like this, and we can have particular women advocating for all types of women, and we can have some women who do actually injure, like the entire feminine collective, the entire female collective, female human race collective. So if for example you have people who perpetuate some of the suppression or some of the oppression that happens in the patriarchy, that is a woman who's injuring the wellness of the human female collective, right? So it's not, people like to sort of face these things with a very black and white sort of mentality, but it's really nuanced, right? It's very nuanced. And female human rights or human rights that affect women, we need to have people who are strong and people who are able to speak out. So for example, with what I'm doing with my brand, I'm trying to teach women that you can be feminine and strong and still career driven and still succeed in your love life if you're able to bring all these things together in an educated and enlightened way. So I'm okay with the Me Too movement, provided that we don't have sneaky individuals who sort of try to use the movement for their own benefit, as we've probably experienced in recent times.
Yes, yes. You know, Daisy, as you're speaking to me, I feel so enlightened, even as you're speaking, because the way that you break it down, you make it so, edible.
Digestible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I always pin myself as a career-driven woman. And honestly, I have never taught about femininity. I know the word exists, but I never taught about it in this capacity. So I'm and this is the reason why we have this podcast, really to have conversations about so many different areas of our lives. Because look what you just said, you can be a career-driven woman, you can also be a good wife, you can also be a responsible citizen. It's how do you use all of those synergies to become whole? And that is so right. And this is why I love having these conversations. So let's talk a little bit about Elegance Handbook. What is Elegance Handbook?
So Elegance Handbook is my platform, the one that I created in 2020. And right now we are almost 70,000. I think we're 69,900 and something. So we are almost 70,000. And with this platform, every day I show up either on stories or on the feed or on reels, and I share with women what I know, right? Because this is like my life purpose and my life passion is to inspire the other person to move from point A to point B. And this is actually why I became a life coach, because this is something that comes natural to me. And through this page, I teach women about feminine energy. I teach them about their personal branding, and I also teach women about etiquette, right? And I bring all these things together because for me, how this happened was, like I've shared before, was I needed it as a life skill, right? And then I realized there is a gap, because when we go to school, we're taught how to be employees, or we're taught how to be people who exist in the workplace in a certain context. But then there's all these other things which get neglected. And these things which get neglected, which is personal branding, your feminine energy, your social skills, these things are actually what will determine how far you will go in life. So like one of the things that I share like in one of my books is how to meet people after you're done with school, and to meet people in high caliber ways, because at the end of the day, what we want when you go to school is to gain social mobility one way or another, right? So people tend to think that for you to gain social mobility, you either really need to be so wealthy, or you need to be, you know, like a gold digger or something like that. But you don't need to be either of those things. You can actually do it in a way that honors your life path and honors your destiny and honors who you are. So I try to teach women to level up by bringing all these things together, because it's not just one thing that will help you advance. It's all these things brought together, but in a good way. So I try to bring my methodology and how I learned it, and I received like really great feedback from women. Women write back to me, those like the people who've read my books, they write back to me and say, thank you so much, you know, for what you shared, and I recommend this book to all my friends, because the information that is here is exactly what I needed, and I'm not taught these things growing up. Like for myself, I learned most of these things in my early and mid and late 20s. Now I'm in my 30s, and I'm using like all this information that I learned in the previous decade to sort of help women so that they don't have to do like the trial and error that I did, you know, growing up and in my early adulthood. Yeah.
Yeah, love it. And you're doing such a
Yes.
fabulous job at it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just amazed. And I agree with everything you're saying. You know, one of the reasons why I believe I've been able to really change the trajectory of my career and
Life.
my mindset, my mind, is because I have been able to tap in to society, into the social skills, right? I've
Yes.
been able to learn
Yeah.
different things that school, that college, right, doesn't teach you, right?
Yes.
And I
Yes.
and like yeah, it's so essential for survival.
Yeah, it is. It is very essential for survival. And to me, my page is about empowerment of women, right? And it's empowerment based on the resources that you have. Every woman has access to her feminine energy. Every woman can have access to her feminine energy and to rediscover it and to embody it. And then also every woman has her personal brand, whether or not she's worked on it, there's something she's saying to the world. So why not say something great to the world about yourself? Why not, you know, put yourself in a position where opportunities actually come to you instead of you having to chase them all the time? So I try to show women that just with a little bit of a mindset shift and also a little bit of a change of focus and strategy, you can live a completely different life.
Wow. Just a little
Yeah.
bit of mindset shift. Just a little
Yes.
bit. Wow.
Yes. Yes. So for
Powerful.
example, when it comes to feminine energy, which is something for me, like it really changed how I interact with men. Because growing up, you tend to hear a lot of things like men are bad or men are trash, which is like a hashtag we have. And there is so much misinformation out there of what it means to be in a relationship and what it means to be to be with a man and what it means to be a woman in a relationship, that when I rediscovered my feminine energy and my femininity, I realized that like being in a relationship is not about losing myself to the other person, right? It's just one of the other things that I am doing to reach my destiny, because every person has a value and every person has worth. So it's not that if you embody your feminine energy, you're lesser of a human being. It makes you more of who you are as a person. So that also sort of helped me to stop trying so hard with people. Yesterday I made a post actually, and I said these are some of the 3 things that I learned when I discovered my feminine energy. One of them was leaning back, right? Like learning how to lean back. At work, we should lean in and do the work. But when it comes to social situation, we should learn to lean back and let things which are one-sided sort of slide away. The other lesson that I shared, and let me open my phone. The other lesson that I shared yesterday was I learned how to detach my sense of self-worth from just my career. And then I realized I'm actually a lot more other things. And this sort of helped me stop with people pleasing, because once you start to realize I don't have to people please a lot to be worthy of something, you start to say, but what do I need? What do I want? And then the other thing that I actually benefited from getting in touch with my feminine energies, that I learned to sit down with my feelings and to process them and to process my emotions, my desires. And this helped me a lot with self-trust when it comes to my intuition, and also with self-acceptance. So like all these things, which I think, and you mentioned earlier about women of color, I think for us, there's also a lot of issues when it comes to self-acceptance that we need to work on. And for myself, getting in touch with my feminine energy was really, really crucial for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's so much years of unlearned trauma, unlearned habits, bad habits, culturally as well. So absolutely.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about high valued women. What is a high valued woman? I love that conversation because this is something new. This conversation about high value. But let's talk about it in terms of high value femininity. What does that entail?
So I'd like to say a few things about first the term high value, right? Because every human being, based on the virtue that they're just human beings, has a value that cannot be detached from them, right? So ideally, if you were to look at all human beings, whether you're poor, rich, no matter what you are, you have a value that is tied to your dignity that cannot be separated from you. I personally, these terms as well are new to me, like high value woman or low value behaviors, right? So for myself, when it comes to these things, because I understand that every human being has an intrinsic value within themselves that cannot be taken away. When I say high value woman or high value man, or when I say someone is behaving in ways that are like, let's say low caliber, it has to do with the behavior at that time. It doesn't have to do with that person, because every person has the ability to change, right? And this is my work, that I help women ditch like low value or low caliber behaviors, like being desperate in relationships, like, having like poor personal branding. Those are low caliber and low value behaviors that are not helping you. Their value in that measure is not useful to you, is not helping you become a better version of yourself. So that's high categorized low value behaviors and low caliber sort of things. And also when it comes to being a high value woman, this is something that you can acquire. That's something that you can refine, something that you can polish, right? Because elegance previously was just limited to the idea of luxury based on a few magazines, right? But then elegance is something that any woman, if she wanted to, can have access to it despite her social status, right? So every woman can behave in a high value way, no matter the social class that they belong to, because people think to be high value means you are a high net worth individual, but those two don't necessarily correlate. People think that being a high value person means being a high net worth individual because it's associated with the idea of luxury. But being high value has to do with your standards, has to do with how you approach life, how you present yourself, how you value yourself, how you show up, So being high value is not the same as being a high net worth individual. And being high value is not directly correlated to luxury, right? But people tend to bring all these things together and it sort of gets mixed up. And then people think, oh, to be a high value woman, I need to have, I don't know, $1 million or $10 million in my bank account. But that's not necessarily it. It's how you esteem yourself, how you carry yourself, how you show up and in relationships, in friendships, in the way that you exist in this world. So that is what being high value means in the context that I teach it and in the context that I understand. In this way, it's actually an empowering thing.
I love that. And Daisy, you hit it right on the knob. Being a high value has nothing to do with your monetary asset or your portfolio. Yes. It has everything to do with your intrinsic character. I love that.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
many of us don't understand. How do you show up? What type of person are you when no one is looking? How good of a
Yes.
friend are you? How good of a daughter? How do you show
Are
up for
you?
your community? I love that. I love
Exactly.
it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, for example, what you're doing and what I'm doing, these are high value things for communities because no one is forcing us to do these things, but we are working towards the betterment of the human race or towards the betterment of our communities. This is a high value thing, right? So it's not just having 10,000 likes on an Instagram post and then you say, oh, I'm a high value woman. No, it's who are you in your wholesome sort of way, like how do you show up, how do the people around you thrive because you exist, you
Ooh,
know?
come on now. You got to repeat that again for the deaf ones
Right.
in the back. Wow. No.
Do the people around you thrive because you exist, right?
Ooh.
Because this is how you can actually embody your value. You embody your high valueness, right? People think it's about what you're wearing, or it's about where you went for holiday, or it's about how many followers you have on Instagram, but it's about how you're showing up. And are you showing up in the highest possible way that you can, right? With the resources that you have, with the capacities that you have, with the awareness that you have. This to me is what it means to be high value. And the reason that I try to teach it starting from feminine energy for women is that once you embody that, you don't need to come to an online guru or to come to myself and ask me, what do I need to do with my life? Because you will understand what to do with your life. You will understand how to tap into who you are, like in a really authentic and empowering and also very grounded way, right? Because a lot of people are not grounded. A lot of people need to be grounded.
Wow.
Yes.
Daisy, you are dropping so many gems. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to have you on this podcast, another episode, or even do some collaborations with you.
Yes, for
Does the
sure.
people, I just want to repeat this because I wrote this down. Does the
Mm.
people around you thrive because you exist?
Yes.
Powerful, powerful.
Yes.
Whew.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you said, you came to the page and you like the page and you're like, this is something that I need for my life, right?
Yes.
So imagine if we had more women stepping into their power, how different the world will be, how different our communities will be, how different our families will be.
Yeah. You're so right.
Yes.
And so this leads
Yeah.
me to ask you, because you are
Yes.
a transformational coach,
Yeah.
what qualifies you as a coach in this space? I think I know the answer, but for the people that don't,
Yes.
what qualifies you? And also, how do you measure success? How do you measure your success?
So I think I'll start with measuring of success. For me, I measure success when I know that a person who came to me or a person who read my post was able to move from a dark place to a place where they were happier and more enlightened, right? Because you can't place a monetary value on that because of something called the butterfly effect, I think, where just a small change, like I was saying, a small mindset shift can completely change someone's life, right? So for me, that is success. If I know that I left someone better than I found them. And for me, when it comes to personal success, it's very much tied to the impact that I make. This is why even with my credentials as a civil engineer, I still am doing this because this is my life purpose and this is my life passion. So speaking about being qualified to talk about this, so first I spoke about my certifications earlier. I'm a certified life coach, a certified image consultant, a certified etiquette consultant, and also I have like experience of working in the corporate space. But I feel that what really qualifies me for this work is that it is deeply my calling. Whether or not I was on Instagram, I will still want to teach. I will still want to tell women about what I've discovered with my life. And for me, this is something that is a complete joy, right? So it doesn't for me, it's a calling. I feel like that is what qualified me first and foremost, that it's a calling to do what I'm doing. And then I got all these other credentials to sort of support my calling and to help me, show up to help people who need it. So my qualifications that I got, so I am a certified life coach, I'm a certified etiquette consultant, and I'm also a certified image consultant. But these are things that I got to support my calling, which my calling is to help people, like move from one place to another. Because through my life, like I've been through some really difficult circumstances, and I've sort of managed to get myself out of there. And I've seen a lot of people not able to get themselves out of dark situations or out of difficult situations. So I sort of married these two things, my life purpose, and then I got all these credentials, and then I have the experience with which I'm able to create the methodology with which I'm helping the women who are on my platform.
Amazing.
Yes.
And you're doing that. You're making a difference, an active difference. Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Yeah. So you know what, Daisy, as we leave this conversation, because there's so many layers to it, I would love you to share with us, what are some classy ways to embody femininity without losing your stance? So what are some classy ways, that maybe 4 or 5 classy ways that we can embody, we can start doing now without losing our identity or losing ourselves, if that makes sense?
So I think maybe I can give one powerful way of embodying your feminine energy that I think people can use for a long time. I think that when women are sort of dating, they should learn to lean back. And this is especially useful like at the beginning stages when you're getting to know someone. Learn to lean back and let the person show their intentions, and let them show how much they're willing to get to know you. Because a lot of women, and I think it's a mistake that I've seen happen over and over again, a lot of women tend to give themselves over too fast, right? Like before the person proves their intention, before the person proves that they're capable of, building something useful with them, a lot of women tend to rush into that, and then 3-6 months down later, they realize, oh my God, what did I get myself into? So I think one powerful way to embody your feminine energy is to learn to lean back, to stop chasing, to stop pursuing people, and just understand who's meant for you and who's not meant for you.
But that's a life journey. Won't you say that's like ever changing?
Yes, it's ever changing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. All right.
Daisy, thank you so much. This has been such a powerful conversation. I want to really thank you for availing yourself to this conversation. And
You're welcome.
What's next for Elegance Handbook? What's next?
So in the coming years, now we're getting into a 3rd year. I just want to have more visibility, get more women into my programs, or get more women to buy the ebooks that I have, or to work with them one-on-one. Also, I have the plans to sort of create more free resources so that people who are not able to sort of afford what I have to offer and the paid programs, they can get something. It's my way of paying it forward, right? So
I love it. But I want to thank you. We're going to stay in touch. Daisy Moraa, certified life transformational coach. I am so happy that you're in this space where you're refining and rediscovering, and we need these conversations. We need people like you. So I want to thank you so much for availing yourself to this conversation. You guys, thank you again for listening to the Chop It Up podcast. You already know, please like, share, and send us a voice note. Listen, you guys, we have a giveaway, a summer giveaway. If you love this episode, we want you to like it. We want you to share and send us a DM. We will enter you into our summer raffle that we have going on for the month of June. So again, it's the Chop It Up podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.